Welcome to the Diabolical Vulgarian Troglodytism. I'm the Vulgarian Troglodyte, and today I'm gonna talk about some of my favorite album opening songs. I have I think a dozen songs or maybe a little more here, so there might be more parts to this topic later on, but we'll see about that. And I have chosen lots of different types of music here, and I think I'm gonna talk about each song a little bit. And the kind of point of this video is just to recommend some great songs and also great albums to people because I also really love all of these albums. I think all of these albums are among my favorite albums of all time. So I'm not just recommending the opening songs here, but also the albums. Yeah. But we are gonna start with a classic post-hardcore band, classic post-hardcore song, and a classic post-hardcore album. So we have Yank Crime by Tribe Like Jehu, and the song is called, I'll always show the track listing here, so it's called Here Come the Rome Plows, which might be one of the best, if not the best, post-hardcore song ever composed. Like it's an absolutely incredible opening, and I think it's actually my favorite song of this masterpiece of an album. Yeah, that song is just a is like a definition of like the word rocking because that song just rocks so hard. It's so noisy. It's like obnoxiously abrasive. It's so loud. It's so much fun to listen to. It makes you want to kind of punch a wall or destroy some stuff because it's so heavy. Yeah, love the vocals in that, but I especially love the noisy guitars. The production is amazing. The guitar tone especially is really good, and it gets like a little bit dissonant at times as well. So I know to many people that song will be like too noisy and too heavy, too over the top, maybe. But I absolutely love that song, and it really kind of pulled me in immediately when I first listened to this album. And yeah, such an incredible post-hardcore track. And this whole album I would highly recommend. I think it's one of the best post-hardcore albums, might even be the best. So yeah, highly recommend it, the whole album. But if you just want to listen to one song, I think the opening track is a good way to go. Then we have Heaven or Las Vegas by Cocteau Twins, probably my favorite album of all time. And this is one of those albums where I love every single track. I think all the songs in this album are 5 out of 5. But if I had to choose one favorite song of this album, it could be the first one, which is called Cherry Colored Funk, which is probably like top 25 favorite songs of all time level for me. But again, this whole album is worth listening to, and songs like Heaven or Las Vegas, Frau Foxy's in Midsummer Fires are, for example, absolutely amazing. Ice Blink Clock, Politik, Road, River and Rail, I think is quite underrated. But anyway, we are talking about the first song. So Cherry Colored Funk, it's a fairly kind of slow paced, slow tempo song. It's very hypnotic, very dreamy, very beautiful, and it really sets the mood for this album. I mean, this album, some songs are a bit more kind of catchy and kind of poppier, but then there are some of these kind of very mood and atmospheric driven songs like Cherry Colored Funk. And this would be a good song if you want to kind of relax or go to bed, and it will instantly calm you down. I've like experienced that when I've had like a really bad day, and then I've just put that song and this album on, and I instantly feel better. So that's one of the reasons why I really love that song. And this whole album, yeah, it's such a beautiful song. And I know it's kind of one of the fan favorites of this album. I think it's on streaming. It might even be the most streamed song. At least it's one of them. And yeah, it's up there with Cocteau Twins, like best songs. It might be their best song, although they are such a legendary band that it's hard to pick one song. But that's definitely up there. And this is a song that I think I can kind of recommend to all types of music listeners. I think it's a very accessible and beautiful song that many people would love, and many people already love it. Okay, Liz Fraser's vocals in that song, absolutely beautiful. The production is beautiful. Everything is just amazing in that song. So I would highly recommend that song, also this album, and Cocteau Twins in general. Yeah.
It's coming!
Then we have a very different type of stuff. So we have Periphery with Periphery 4, Hail Stan. And this has such an incredible opening track. Although I've kind of over listened to the song, so I can't listen to it as often as I used to. But the song is called Reptile. I think it's probably the longest song I'm gonna talk about today because it's 16 minutes and 43 seconds. And one criticism I have for that song is that maybe it is a bit too overlong, and the kind of overlongness comes from the end of the song, so you don't have to worry about it in the beginning. But yeah, the last few minutes of the song, I think you could cut parts of that out. I mean, the outro, the ending still works well, but I think it doesn't necessarily have to be this long. But I remember the first time I heard this song, I was so excited for this album, and this wasn't released as a single. So when the album came out, I listened to it for the first time. Then when I went through the whole album, and God, it blew me away. I was just headbanging so much, and I was smiling. I felt like I was in heaven when I heard that, and then I kept listening to it like several times a day for a couple of months, and that's where the over listening came. And then after that, even though I don't listen to it as often these days, I still listen to it quite often. And I even saw the song live when they played in London, and they even made a live album of that, and they started the show with that song, and I was just so happy. Like it sounded so great live as well. But this is a good example of their style. So this song starts with this kind of a orchestral intro. We have some strings, and then the vocalist Spencer starts singing, and the opening is very epic. And then after a minute or so, like the heavy instrumentation comes in, and that transition is really good. And then we have this really amazing riff that's really fun to listen to, and the guitar tone is great there. But there are so many fun vocal parts here. There is lots of singing here, but also lots of screaming. The guitars are down-tuned. The riffs are fairly complex. There is also a nice guitar solo from Mark Holcomb. And then the singer from the UK band Sikt uh, has like a kind of a spoken word part, like after I think like 7 minute mark on this song. Yeah, but yeah, great vocal melodies. Again, the riffs are definitely on highlight. The drum performance is amazing. But yeah, that's such a great progressive metal track. Very heavy, lots of fun. Doesn't take itself too seriously, and yeah, it's so good. And this whole album, I really love the whole album, and I've listened to all of these songs to death, except maybe Crush. That one, I mean, I've listened to it a bunch of times, but not as many times as the other songs. But yeah, I really love this. Really love this album. I really love that song, and yeah, it's one of my most listened to songs of all time. So yeah, yeah, great record.
When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I wanna take you there.
Then we have something completely different. We have Like a Prayer by Madonna, and of course the song is also called Like a Prayer. Probably her most famous song, at least one of her most famous songs, and one of my personal favorites. Although it's not actually my favorite song of this album, my favorite song of the album is called Oh Father, which I absolutely love, but Like a Prayer is a very close second. And of course, this song, I'm sure that you have heard it, so I'm not gonna talk about it that much, but it's a very groovy, fun song, very catchy. I think the only kind of criticism I would have for it that maybe the drum sounds a bit dated now, like many kind of 80s drum sounds do now, but I mean that doesn't really bother me. I think the track overall has incredible production and still sounds very good, and this is kind of the one of the peaks of the 80s, I would think. I think in terms of the production and the sound quality, yeah. And I like Madonna's voice here. Again, the vocals are very catchy in this song, and this song is kind of endlessly replayable. Really like the intro to the song as well. But yeah, such a great song, and this album, I absolutely adore this album. I love every single track on it, and it's probably like on my top 10 albums of all time. I'm always trying to make like a top 50 albums of all time list, but I always fail at that. But this would certainly be on it, and probably very high up there in top 10, maybe even top 5. That's how much I love this album, and I think it's very underrated in radio music because 3.56, like that's absolutely criminal that it's that low. It should be way higher. And it's ranked as the 170th best album of 1989. Like that's absolutely criminal. Yeah, absolutely criminal. And this was actually a pretty good year for music in general, but yeah, this is definitely one of the best albums of the year.
If only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap our places. Be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building.
Then we have more 80s pop music, although very different type of pop music. So we have Kate Bush's Hounds of Love album, and of course the opening track is the most famous track on the album. It's Running Up That Hill, A Deal with God, which I absolutely love that track. It might even be my favorite Kate Bush track, which is kind of very cliche thing to say, but what can I say? I just really love that song. And it was one of the first kind of Kate Bush songs that I really fell in love with. But this whole album is, of course, a masterpiece, a five-star album, one of the best of the 80s and of all time, and probably Kate Bush's best album, although I really love Dreaming as well and some of the others. Yeah, but that song has a fun beat. Of course, Kate Bush's very unique voice works really well in that song. It's just so much fun to listen to. The production still sounds good to this day. Yeah, it's one of the more kind of, I would say, catchier and kind of pure fun songs on this album. Of course, there are some songs that are more experimental and very different than Running Up That Hill, but that's kind of the like one of the fun, like more accessible songs on this album that I think again most people would like. And I'm sure that many of you have heard it already. Of course, it kind of came back to the public consciousness after Stranger Things had that song. But by the way, I had heard that song and this album before Stranger Things. That season came out, and I haven't even seen that season, so it didn't affect me at all. But it's cool that uh, Kate Bush became even more popular due to Stranger Things. Yeah, but a great record, absolute must listen, and that song is a good introduction to Kate Bush, I would say.
We are beggars, we are so fucking weak. And what's the blood inside? We have the world out of face. Well, we're all dying to made of nature. But all the drugs have the patterns.
Then we have more metal music, so we have All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us by Architects, one of my favorite bands and one of my favorite albums. So this album starts with one of their best songs. This is also like a fan favorite and something that they often play live. It's called Nihilist. And this song is extremely heavy. It's quite fast as well. Has some good lyrics. It's so pissed off and angry which I love. It has those kind of chanty guitars. It's not like the guitars are like full on chant, but they are kind of chanty and yeah, very heavy. The drums are quite heavy and crazy as well, and Sam's vocal performance here is just absolutely killer. There is so much anger and kind of frustration in his voice, and this was probably kind of this album maybe the peak for his kind of screaming voice. So it sounds better than ever here. And again, I love this album front to back. Love all these songs here. But Nihilist is definitely up there as my favorite from this album. It might be my second favorite because I think Gone with the Wind might be my favorite Architect song of all time. So yeah, I would say that that's my favorite of the album. But Nihilist is definitely up there. Yeah, such a great, angry, fast, pissed off track. Yeah.
見つめるキャッツアイマジックレインスタンス緑色に光る怪しくキャッツアイマジックレインスタンス月明かり浴びて
Then we have a Japanese city pop album called Timely by Anri. So this is one of the big city pop classic albums, and this is one of those albums that doesn't have any weak tracks. I really love the whole track list, but it starts with this song called Cat's Eye New Take. Don't have that much to say about it, but it's a really fun city pop song. It has that kind of sunny, beautiful feeling to it, that kind of upbeat 80s instrumentation to it. Nanri's voice, I really like the voice. Her singing voice is really beautiful and kind of optimistic sounding. Yeah, I mean this album and this song, it kind of reminds me a lot of the kind of adult contemporary stuff that we've also had in Europe and even here in Finland. That I don't always like that stuff, but here that type of sound really works. And again, most of these songs on this album are very kind of groovy, funky, really fun, like different instruments, like great bass lines, even some saxophone in this album. But yeah, I think this opening track is one of my favorite ones. Again, don't have that much to say about it, but would highly recommend this track. And also this whole album is such a fun city pop album, and I think it's a very accessible album. And I'm glad that even younger generations have been finding this album lately, and you can see that it has become kind of a internet music nerd classic in the past few years at least. So that's very cool to see.
If you ever get close to a human and human behavior.
Then we have one of my favorite artists, Björk, with her album Debut, one of my favorite albums from her. And this, of course, starts with her classic track called Human Behaviour. Yeah, one of her best tracks and one of the best tracks of this album. I don't know if it's my favorite track on the album because I really love Venus as a boy. And actually, I have a really big kind of soft spot for There's More to Life Than This. I really love that track, and that was the first Björk track I ever heard in my life. But Human Behavior, like it's a very kind of sensual sounding album with like Björk's voice really shines in that. I mean, there are moments when her voice is very kind of subdued in that track, but then there are moments where she gets to also show her range more, and the fairly calm, kind of fairly slow tempo beat on that track works really well. It's fairly simple and it stays kind of fairly steady throughout the track. But yeah, great production in this song. I love her voice as always. I always love her voice, and I love kind of all the sides to her uh, voice. Whether she does that more subdued stuff or whether she goes absolutely crazy, I love both things. But yeah, one of her best tracks. Actually, recently when I went to a supermarket, they were playing this track on the huge supermarket. I was very surprised because, of course, while it's a fairly like a well-known track, but You don't usually hear it in like a supermarket or whatever. These days, especially because now it's over 30 years old and stuff. But yeah, what a great track and what a great album. Definitely check this out. Yeah. Then we have the Flaming Lips with the Soft Bulleting album that I really love. But my favorite song on the album is actually Race for the Prize, the opening track. And that's a song that I listen to a lot. Absolutely love that song, one of my favorite songs of all time. There are many things that I love about that song. I love the melodies in it, love the vocals and kind of how they don't take themselves too seriously. Because the vocals and the lyrics kind of sound a bit ridiculous, but in a good way. And I also really like the simple but very effective kind of drum performance in this song. It really works well. Yeah, and the scenes sound like really good as well. I really love that. It really pulls you in immediately. Those kind of synth melodies that are very integral to the track, and also how the drums play with those melodies that works really well. And yeah, that's one of those songs that's kind of endlessly replayable. I think I've listened to it so many times and always, always love it. And the track has that bit of a kind of noisy, kind of raw element, so it's not like overly produced. The drums sound somewhat rough, not like overly polished, and everything kind of sounds like fairly kind of raw. I mean, not like raw like black metal or anything like that, but in the way that it feels like very human, kind of organic, and not overproduced. So I really like the production in that way as well. But a great song and a very good record as well. Love it.
You got me started, nothing on earth can stop it. It's crazy, I'm falling. Don't know what else to call it. Oh, do you believe in magic? Do you?
Then we have Kylie Minogue's Disco. I absolutely adore this album. I listen to it so much. And one of my favorite tracks on this album is the opening track called Magic, which is a very good example of what this album has to offer. Yeah, it's kind of that typical disco revival song. It doesn't do anything unique or groundbreaking, but it makes you move your body and it's a fun song, very catchy song. I like Kylie's vocals in that. It has very like again catchy vocals and catchy lyrics, but also the beats, the production work really well on that song. And yeah, absolutely love that track. And yeah, it's definitely one of the best in this album. My favorite is probably Celebrate You because I have a very big kind of emotional connection to that song. But I also really love the first three tracks. And I would say Magic is probably the best out of the first three tracks, even though all of them are great. And then Supernova is something I listen to quite a lot as well. But yeah, really love this record. Really love that song called Magic and really love the Queen, Kylie. Yeah.
I'm fearful of flying, and flying is fearful of me. And I covered my eyes when she told me the news, turning me on with my lightsaber cocksucking. Are you coming? Are you coming? Are you coming?
And this album I mentioned recently on this channel. It's one of my favorite recent discoveries. I mean, probably my favorite recent discovery. So this album is called Mclusky Do Dallas by Mclusky, a great post-hardcore band. And this is their best album. I listened to the couple that they've done after this, and they were good, especially the latest one. But to me, this is by far the best one. But yeah, this starts with this very short track called Lightsabre Cocksucking Blues. So that song, kind of like the Drive Like Jehu song that we talked about, is a very noisy, aggressive song that just rocks so hard. It's so much fun to listen to. The vocal performance is absolutely insane, and he does fairly like varied uh, vocal performance that he says some of the same lines in different ways throughout the track, even though the track is only less than 2 minutes long. But yeah, this is one of my favorite post-hardcore tracks now. It kind of is a perfect example of the type of post-hardcore that I love. That it's very, very noisy, very abrasive, very heavy, but still somehow very kind of groovy and fun to listen to, and something that really kind of connects with me hard. And this song was produced by Steve Albini, so that's where the great guitar tone comes from. The drum performance is great in that song too, and yeah, that song is just an absolute rager, and it's such a banger. Love it a lot. Yeah, but yeah, I would highly recommend this album to anybody who likes punk and noise rock and post-hardcore. Yeah, but you have to be able to listen to fairly heavy and noisy stuff to appreciate this album. Although it has moments that are a bit more accessible as well, but it starts very heavy. Yeah.
Will somebody wear me to the fair? Will a lady pin me in her hair?
Then we have Minnie Riperton's Come to My Garden. So this is my favorite soul album of all time. An absolute masterpiece. And sadly, fairly underrated as well. Of course, it has a decent rating here, but still, like I think this should be up there with like Nina Simone, Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, and Curtis Mayfield, and Marvin Gaye, and those goated artists, because this is just absolutely beautiful. But this actually starts with probably the most famous song out of this album called Le Fleur. Again, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce French, but yeah, that's an incredibly beautiful track, and it shows kind of what the whole album has to offer. Minnie Riperton's voice is absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. She has such a wide range. She can sing so high, and she sounds like an angel on this track and also on this whole album. And this song and the whole album like has great instrumentation. There are these orchestral passages, and then great kind of uh like percussive instrumentation as well here, like in this track as well. And yeah, very catchy track. The chorus really gets you moving and really hits you hard. It's such a beautiful song, and I would highly recommend this album. One of the best albums of all time, I would say, and definitely one of the best albums of the 70s, and one of the best soul albums of all time. And Minnie Riperton arguably has the best voice in soul. I know that's a big statement to make, but her voice is just so beautiful. And the production in this album and this song is just so beautiful and lush, and it sounds so great still to this day. Yeah, such a great record and such a great song and such a great artist. Yeah. Then last but not least, we have Opeth's Ghost Reveries. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't show my star rating here, because I have rated it here. But this is in my like top 5 albums of all time, maybe even top 3 or top 2. Yeah, absolutely love this album. But yeah, this starts with one of their best songs and one of my favorites from them, called Ghost of Perdition. And don't be kind of tricked by the first like 10 seconds of this song, because it starts fairly calm, although even the start sounds very ominous, but then it kind of slaps you in the face after that very brief intro and becomes very heavy. But this song is great example of kind of the dynamism of Opeth's music. So there are moments that are very heavy with growls and heavy guitars and stuff, but then there are these absolutely beautiful melancholic moments where Mikael is just singing to acoustic instrumentation, and those transitions work so well, even though the like musical movements or whatever in this song are so different to each other, but somehow they transition from section to section so well. And this album has such an incredible production as well. The guitar tone is absolutely perfect. The drums, especially the snare drum, sound very punchy and very good. And of course, Martin Lopez is such a great drummer. This was the final album that he did with Opeth. The bass lines are great in this, and the bass sounds really good. And Mikael's voice, I think this was the peak of his growling voice, and also his singing voice is absolutely on top tier here, and the voice is also mixed really well, like all the volumes and stuff are just perfect, and they work well in kind of harmony with each other. And yeah, this song I've listened to it so many times during my life, but I never get tired of it. Yeah, because it's just so much fun to listen to because there are so many different sections and styles of music inside this one song that it doesn't get boring because it has many different types of music packed into one song. And I think this song is a perfect kind of example and a gateway to their kind of death metal period because this kind of sums up what they were all about during this time because it has the heavy sections but also the beautiful acoustic melancholic sections. And yeah, such a beautiful album. And I love so many tracks here. I mean, my favorite is probably Harlequin Forest or Isolation Years, but Ghost of Perdition is in the top three with those, and really love the Baying of the Hounds as well as all the other tracks. But yeah, what a masterpiece of an album and a masterpiece of a song. Absolutely love it, and would highly recommend it. Yeah. But that's it for this video. Again, I might do a part 2 and part 3 and part 4 to this eventually, but we'll see about that. Hopefully you got some recommendations from this list and let me know some great album openers that I missed on this list. What are some of your favorites? And you can also let me know what you think of these artists, songs and albums. Yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. Don't drink Coke at all. Sayonara and arigato gozaimashita.